I've got to the stage now where I'm going to back my quilt, or back the coverlet. I want to do this in sections because it makes it much more manageable and easier to handle. Using the ironing board, which is a great worktop I find, I have now placed the quilt or the coverlet over the edge of my ironing board, right in the centre. So this red one here is the actual centre of my quilt. Underneath, I have prepared some backing fabric. Now this piece of backing fabric is about the width of my ironing board, and it's going to be a manageable section for me to manoeuvre and to quilt and to attach to the front of the quilt or coverlet. So to make things easier in the long term, I have just open a seam like that. I've done that on both sides, just pressing over so I haven't exactly got a raw edge on the edge. And I've also exactly in half, I have ironed a crease. Now this crease will enable me to match up match up points over my work. So now you can see that if the red is the centre, I just want to line the crease up. It doesn't quite. I'm going to move it down. I'm going to manipulate it around a bit. So either side, the centre of the quilt or the coverlet will line up with the crease that I have pressed. So very, very important to keep the iron going. Iron your backing fabric first. Make sure everything's nice as flat as possible. So we've got to this point now. I've just placed the coverlet on top of the backing fabric. This is not going to be quilted. I'll give a pause right now and show you more in a moment. You can see that I have now, using tacking cotton, tacked along the centre. Remember, the red one is the centre of the work, leading up to the crease that can be seen and matched up there. I'm using big blue tacking stitches. So basically what I've got to do now is continue to tack layers, tack the two layers together. There's lots of ways you can do this. Of course, I'm not saying my way is the perfect way, but it's a way that I know works and I find very satisfactory. So as you can see, I now have my first row of tacking attaching the coverlet to the backing underneath and focusing on the red hexagon in the centre, which is the centre and lines up all the way along. I'm going to tack a bit more now and come back a bit more later. I'd like to point out that obviously if you have a quilting frame it's a lot easier to do this. As you can see, I've got one hand underneath the two layers, leaning on the ironing board, and as you can see my tacking stitch has just come from the edge here now, and there's my needle, and I will be bringing it forward and forward, keeping it as taut as possible, having one hand underneath the work and working the needle with your right hand if you're right-handed. That's if you know, this is a way to do it if you haven't got a quilting frame. Obviously a quilting frame would be better if you prefer to use that. Right, so now you can see, if I just pull back a little bit, I have now tacked from left to right, remembering that the red one is in the centre, all the way across, up, and I've also gone vertically as well, starting in the centre of the first vertical line and then working either side. So now I have more or less like a very abstract type tacking grid. I accept that this may not be the conventional way to do things. This is my way of doing things, and I'm going to show you how it's going to work. So here we have the first section, the centre section of the coverlet. If I turn it over, you'll see that the tacking cottons, oops, right, I've just turned the quilt over. I had a slight interruption in my programme there. I've tacked the front, and I just want to show you the back, tacking over the area that I will be shortly machine quilting. I'm going to machine quilt this. Again, it won't be in a conventional way. It might not be everybody's idea of the perfect way of doing it. It's my way of doing it, and I will be continuing shortly with another video clip to demonstrate it.